The organ was low and steady. The room was full of flowers and soft voices. I stood by the casket. My husband lay quiet in a navy suit I had ironed that morning. His brother leaned close. His breath smelled like mint and grief. He whispered one line into my ear. "Do not let them close the casket yet. Check his inside jacket pocket. Sign nothing today." I did not move. I did not nod. I kept my face calm for the people in the pews, but my hand shook on the wood. I felt the weight of the day shift. A door opened in my head. I knew I was stepping through it. To understand how I ended up there, we need to go back to Monday. It was noon when the call came. They said my husband, Mark, had a stroke at work. It was sudden. He fell in the hallway near the elevators. The paramedics tried. It was too late. He was 51. I listened. I set the knife down on the cutting board. I looked at the carrot ends on the counter. I thought of our concert tickets for Saturday. I thought of the stain on our beige sofa. I thought about how I had told him the night before to respect what did not belong to him. Then I cried so hard I could not breathe. I drove to his office. The lights in the lobby were too bright. HR met me with water in a paper cup. They told me the time of death again. They told me where to sign. I signed. Mark's brother Jason arrived fast. He hugged me. He started speaking for me. He said he would handle everything. He said I should rest. He said the word widow, like it was a hat he was pinning on my head. That night the house filled up. Casseroles, flowers, voices. People posted old photos of us online. They wrote, "Gone too soon," and tagged me. I stood and smiled and thanked them. I watched my son, Eli, 18, move like a shadow at the edge of rooms. He touched the photo of his father on the mantle and did not cry. That scared me more than anything. I did not sleep. At 3 a.m, I opened the bedroom door and stared at the empty side of the bed. His phone blinked. One new email. I did not touch it. I did not want his codes, not yet. I made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and held the warm mug and told myself to keep still until the sun came up. The next day brought lists, church times, flowers, programs. The HR woman called again. She sounded kind, but her words were hard. There would be papers for me to sign. Life insurance. 401 key. A widow packet. She asked if we had updated beneficiaries. I said yes. We had done that 6 years ago at our kitchen table. We had checked every box like careful people. She said good. She said she would bring the forms to the funeral, so I would not have to come downtown. She called it convenient. The morning of the funeral smelled like rain. I dressed in black and pinned my hair back. At the viewing, I stood at the casket while a line of faces moved past. Old coworkers, cousins, neighbors. People looked at me to see how to feel. I did not know how to show them. I folded my hands and thought of the sound of his laugh when he forgot himself. Just before the service, I did what Jason told me. I slid my fingers into the inner pocket of Mark's jacket. There was paper. There was also something small and hard. I pulled them out fast and hid them in my clutch. Then the organ started, and I had to walk to the front pew. I heard the readings and the songs like they were behind a wall. I felt hands on my shoulder. I watched my son go up to the lectern and read a psalm. I saw Jason speak with that smooth voice people trust. He called Mark his compass. People nodded. I stood at the end and told a short story about a road trip and a flat tire. People laughed. People cried. I sat down. It was done. At the cemetery, dirt hit wood with a hollow sound that stayed in my chest. Back at the church hall, the room buzzed with coffee and quiet. I slipped into a coat closet and opened the clutch. Inside, there were 2 folded forms and a small USB drive on a brass keyring. The first paper was a beneficiary change for the life insurance. It was dated 1 week ago. The new primary was not me. It was Jason. The contingent was our son. The second was a letter to HR. It asked for my husband's retirement to be rolled into a trust managed by Jason. It said, "We are separated. Please do not involve my wife." Separated. I stood very still and let the word pass through me. No one had told me we were separated. We slept in the same bed. We paid the same bills. We argued about the same stain on the same sofa. I put the forms back in my clutch and walked out of the closet. My face was smooth. My hands were not. I found Jason by the coffee urns. I stood near him and spoke in a low voice so no one else would hear. I told him what I had found. He did not look surprised. He said we could talk about it later. He said Mark was worried I spent too much. He said I should not make a scene. He called me Anna, the way people say, calm down. Then he turned and greeted a banker like nothing had happened. I went home with a new kind of pain. Grief sits heavy. Betrayal is sharp. They met in my chest and pressed against each other. That night, I sat at Mark's desk and opened his laptop. My hands shook at first, then steadied. His password worked. There was a folder on the desktop called Taxist 2019. Inside, it was another folder called Receipts. Inside that were not receipts. There were scanned documents and photos. A lease for a small condo near the lake, a list of account numbers I had never seen. Photos of a second key. Calendar invites titled Monthly Review at the condo address. I kept clicking. There was a subfolder named If I'm Gone. I opened it. There was a short video file, a scanned letter, and a note to Jason. The letter was for me. It was dated 3 weeks ago. It was short. It said, "If you are reading this, I'm sorry." It said, "I made choices to protect the company." It said, "Trust Jason." Then the last line, "If you need proof, go to Box 117 at First Meridian Bank." I closed my eyes. I knew First Meridian. It was 3 blocks from Mark's office. I watched the video. It was Mark at the condo, sitting on a gray sofa. He looked tired. He said he was under pressure at work. He said the market turned and exposed a hole. He said Jason had borrowed against the future to hide it and needed time. He said he changed the beneficiary to keep the board calm. He said we would fix it in January. He said he would make it right. He looked straight into the camera and said, "I am not leaving you." Then the video ended. I sat very still. I listened to the air purifier hum. I put my ring on the desk. I picked it up again and put it back on my finger. I decided 2 things. I would not sign anything. I would not let grief make me small. The next morning, I went to the bank. The box number on the letter matched a key in the USB keyring. The banker asked for my ID and my marriage certificate. I showed both. He led me to a small room and left me alone. I opened the box. Inside were 3 things: a flash drive, a handwritten list of dates and sums, and a will. Not the will we had updated 6 years ago. This one was old and simple. Everything to me, then to our son. The list named payments from the company to a shell account. The amounts were large. The dates ran for a year. At the bottom, Mark had written 1 line in pencil. "This is Jason's hole. He says he can fill it. If he cannot, tell the board." My hands went cold. I took photos of everything. I put everything back. I closed the box. I thanked the banker. I walked out into cold air and stood on the sidewalk until I could breathe. At home, I opened the flash drive. There were spreadsheets. There were emails between Mark and Jason. The emails were short. Jason told Mark to hold the line. Jason told Mark the beneficiary change would stabilize rumors. Jason told Mark to keep Anna quiet. A sour taste filled my mouth. I called the HR woman. I left a clear message. I said I would not sign papers at the funeral or anywhere else. I said I was contesting any changes. I asked for badge logs, security reports, and the benefits file. I told her my lawyer would follow up. I did not yet have a lawyer, but I would. Then I called a woman I trusted. Her name is Leslie. She is a quiet attorney who does estates and asks good questions. I told her everything. She did not gasp. She did not scold. She said, "Bring me the copies. Keep the originals safe. Do not talk to Jason." I said, "Okay." That afternoon, my card got declined at the florist. I checked the bank app. Our joint checking was almost empty. A wire had gone out that morning. It had Jason's trust name on it. My throat felt tight. I paid in cash and walked out with lilies anyway. I put them in water at home and thought, this is not an accident. This is a plan. That night, a car idled outside our house for 10 minutes. A black sedan, lights off, engine low. It moved on when I turned on the porch light. I told myself I was not afraid. I told myself I would write down the license plate next time. The next day brought the first wave of pressure. Jason came by with his mother. He brought a casserole and a folder. He said the board needed clarity. He said the company cared about my well-being. He said the fastest path was to sign the widow packet and avoid noise. His mother stood behind him and looked at my kitchen the way people look at a bad haircut. I did not invite them in. I stood in the doorway and told them I would not sign. Jason's mouth did a small, tight thing. His mother said grief can make women unreasonable. I closed the door and locked it. I stood with my back against the wood and shook until the shaking passed. Later, my friend Mia texted. She said she was coming over. She had wine and news. She hugged me hard and cried into my shoulder. She said Jason had called her. He told her I was making things worse. He asked her to help me see reason. She told me to sign and get my share later. She said I needed to think long term. She said I was too emotional to manage this. I looked at her. We have been friends since college. She knows what I look like when I am lying. I kept my face plain. I said I would think about it. After she left, my son asked if Mia was on our side. I told him we were going to act like we had no sides until we were sure. The wake at the office was set for Friday. HR called it a celebration of life. The board would be there, the staff would be there would be a slideshow and speeches. The HR woman said they would bring the widow packet there just in case. I said thank you. Then I called Leslie and said we would be ready. Thursday morning, I got another call. It was Mark's assistant. Her voice was small and quick. She said she had something of Mark's and did not know what to do. She asked me to meet her at a coffee shop near the lake. I went. She slid me a phone across the table. It was a cheap second phone. It held only one thread. It was between Mark and Jason. It was ugly. Money, pressure, timelines. One line from Jason jumped out. Get the change done this week. The policy will cover us if the board panics. I'll handle Anna. I asked her why she was helping me. She said she loved her job and respected Mark. She said Jason scared her. She said she could not carry this alone. She cried into a napkin and then left fast. I copied the messages. I thanked her. I felt tired in my bones, but a clear kind of tired, like after a storm. Friday came. I wore a black dress and flat shoes. I pinned my hair back again. I put the USB drive and the forms and the printed emails into a neat stack in my bag. I put the old will in a folder. I held the video on a small tablet. I kissed my son on the head and told him we were telling the truth today. He nodded and took my hand. The lobby of the office was clean glass and steel. The atrium echoed. People wore name badges and sympathy. They hugged me and told me Mark had taught them everything. Some meant it. Some were practicing lines. The program began. Slides of vacations. Slides of meetings. Mark smiling with clients. Mark running a 10K. Jason stood and spoke. He called Mark our leader. He called him steady. He called him a man of order. He said the company would honor him by staying strong. He was about to ask people to raise a glass when I stepped forward. I did not raise my voice. I asked for 5 minutes. The HR woman started to shake her head. The COO looked at me and then looked at the board chair and then nodded once. I stepped up to the small stage. My hands were not shaking. Not anymore. I told the room that I loved my husband. I told them he was brave and flawed. I told them he had worked too hard and carried too much. I told them he died at his office from a stroke. That was true. I told them I had found papers in his jacket at the funeral. That was true too. Then I showed them what I found. I did not dump everything. I did not shout. I put one thing down at a time. The beneficiary change dated a week before his death. The letter to HR saying we were separated. The list from the bank box with dates and amounts. The emails about the hole. I said the hole was not mine. I said it was not my son's. I said I had copies of all of it. I said my lawyer had the originals. I did not say Jason's name until the room was already on the hook. Then I said it once. I said, Jason asked my husband to change the policy to calm people like you. He asked him to keep me out. He moved money the morning after my husband died. I held up the bank screenshot. It was not a large number compared to their spreadsheets, but the timing was a knife. Then I played 30 seconds of Mark's video. Not the personal lines, not the parts that were just for me. Only the sentence where he said, I changed the beneficiary to stabilize things for the board. Jason says it will steady the ship. I stopped the video there. I put the tablet down. I let the silence do its work. I told them I would not sign the widow packet. I told them I was contesting the beneficiary change and any new will. I told them I had the old will. I told them I would work with the company, but not through Jason. I told them I would tell the truth because my son deserved it. I told them I would go to the regulators if I had to. I did not threaten. I promised. The room felt different. Not loud, not quiet, focused. The board chair stood up and walked to the front. He did not touch my arm. He did not try to take the papers. He said they would look at everything right away. He asked me to step into a conference room with their counsel. He asked Jason to wait outside. People pretended to look at their phones while they watched him. That is what a shift looks like. We sat in a glass room for 2 hours. The board's lawyer asked for copies. I had copies. The HR head tried to explain the separation language. She did not have proof. She had an email from Jason. That was not enough. The board chair asked Jason to leave his badge. He did not argue. He had nothing to say that would help him. By sunset, 3 things were set in motion. 1. The company opened a formal internal inquiry and put Jason on leave. 2. HR froze all movement on benefits and insurance pending the inquiry and the court. 3. The board retained an outside firm to review the books. The chair shook my hand and said, "Thank you for bringing this, Mrs. Hart." The Mrs. felt strange. It also felt right. News travels fast in a building like that. By the time I walked out, people avoided Jason's eyes. The same people who used to orbit him now studied their shoes. He stood in the lobby, small for the first time. He looked at me. I looked back. We both knew we had crossed a line that does not run backward. The aftershocks came fast. Over the next week, my phone filled up with calls. Some were kind. Some were threats that tried to sound like advice. Jason's mother said I was cruel. Jason's lawyer sent a letter with sharp edges and hollow inside. My friend Mia texted that she had no idea. I found a photo of her and Jason from a year ago at a bar, arms too close. I remembered the way she had urged me to sign. I blocked her. I did not explain. She knew why. The inquiry took 3 weeks. In the middle of it, the life insurance company called. They had flagged the last-minute change. They needed statements. They needed Mark's medical records. They needed proof of marriage. They asked careful questions. They used careful words. They said, contest. They said, undue influence. I answered everything. Leslie answered the rest. The company's news came on a gray Thursday. The board chair called me. He said the review found misstatements in 2 quarters. He said there were side accounts. He said several transfers matched the list from the bank box. He said Jason was out. He said they had referred the matter for possible charges. He said thank you again, but this time his voice sounded like he hated the word. 2 days later, the HR woman resigned. She sent me a note that said she was sorry. I believed part of it. I also knew she had chosen convenient over right because it was easier at the time. I wish I could say that felt like victory. It did not. It felt like standing on wet ground after a storm and seeing what was broken. It felt like a house with windows again, but no curtains yet. It felt like work. There was still the will. 2 weeks after the funeral, a lawyer I did not know sent a codicil. It was dated 1 month before Mark died. It said I would receive $1 and his cookbooks. It put everything else in a trust run by Jason for the benefit of Eli. I laughed when I read it and then I cried. Then I sent it to Leslie and said, "Let's go." We went. We filed a challenge. We walked papers into court. We brought the old will from the bank box. We brought Mark's video. We brought the emails. We brought the timing. We brought the list. We brought the HR letter that said separated. We brought the truth that lived in details. The hearing was short and quiet. The judge read. The judge asked 2 questions. The judge looked at the dates. The judge looked at the video. The judge looked at me. Then the judge set aside the codicil as suspect and restored the prior will until a full hearing. That meant I could pay the mortgage. That meant I could breathe. That night, Eli and I ate pizza on the floor. We watched a dumb movie. I fell asleep with my head on his shoulder. He let me. The final turn came quietly. A month after the funeral, a woman from accounting stopped me in a grocery store. She kept her voice low. She said she had been told to move numbers in the days before Mark died. She said Jason told her it was for optics. She said she was sorry. She said she had kept copies. I told her to send them to the board's outside counsel. I told her to take care of herself. I thanked her for speaking. People asked me later why I did not burn it all down, why I did not run every clip and every email and every rumor on social media. I could have. I had enough to scorch. But fire spreads. I did not want my son to live in ashes. I wanted him to see a different way to win. There were small payoffs along the way. The florist who had seen my card get declined sent me a note and a free bouquet with a card that said, "Hold fast." The bank reversed a fee with an apology letter that read like they were afraid of me. The HR woman who had once pushed the packet met my eyes at a coffee shop and said, "You were right," without moving her mouth. And on a cold evening in March, the life insurance company called and said the change had been voided for cause. The check would be issued to the estate as named before. My hands shook. I sat down on the kitchen floor and cried into my coat. Then I got up and made dinner. The consequences were not only ours. Jason lost his title, then his job, then his reputation. The board announced remediation. People put out careful statements. Friends who had laughed at his jokes now said they had always had concerns. The company paid fines. The papers used soft words like irregularities and governance failure. I used harder words in my head, but I did not need to say them out loud. The facts said enough. And me? I learned to love simple days. I fixed the squeaky cabinet door by the sink. I let the beige sofa have its stain because life leaves marks, and we live with them. I put my ring on a thin gold chain and hung it on a hook by the door. I touched it when I left the house and when I came home. I did not rush to take it off my neck. I did not rush to wear it on my hand. I let time do some of the work. There were 2 moments of doubt that almost broke me. The first was the night before the office memorial. I stood in the bathroom and stared at my face in the mirror. It looked older than it had a week before. I thought, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should let them take what they want and keep the peace. Then I looked at my son sleeping on the sofa, his mouth open, the remote on his chest, the same as when he was 6. I put my hand on the doorframe and said out loud, "No." The second was the day the judge restored the old will. I went to the cemetery alone. The ground was still new over his casket. The marker was not set yet. I stood there and felt angry at him for the first time. I told him it was not fair to leave this mess on my lap. I told him I was tired. I told him he should have trusted me instead of Jason. Then, I told him I would carry it anyway, because that is what love is after a life. The part you carry so the rest can be laid down. On the way out, I passed Jason's car on the road in. He did not look at me. I did not look at him. We no longer lived in the same story. Months later, when the worst of it had settled, the church asked me to speak at a grief group. I said yes. I told them this. Start with a hook. Life will hand you one. Mine was a whisper at a casket. Do not ignore it. Name the first betrayal. Write it down in plain words. Mine was a paper in a pocket that said I did not exist. Count what you gave. Count what they took. Count what you still have. Do the math with clear eyes. Choose one clean decision. Mine was simple. I would not sign. Expect obstacles. They will come as paper and as people. Eat breakfast anyway. Foreshadow your own strength. Put dates on your calendar. Make copies. Keep a list. Save the keys. Plan the reveal. Do it where the right ears can hear. Keep your words short. Let facts speak. Watch the aftershock. It will not be pretty. It will be real. And when the dust settles, take your own closure. Not the one they offer you in a neat envelope, the one you build with your hands. I ended that talk with a small thing. I pulled a penny from my pocket. It was bright and new. On one side it said trust. On the other side it said 2024. I said, this was what I was worth in Jason's plan. Less than a penny. Today I keep the penny. He can keep the plan. I went home and set that penny on the mantel beside Mark's picture. I lit a candle. I sat on the floor and leaned my back against the beige sofa with its stubborn stain. The house hummed. My son laughed at a show in the next room. The night felt steady for the first time in a long time. At my husband's funeral, his brother's whisper made me freeze. It also woke me up. Grief tried to make me small. Truth made me stand. In the end, I did not dance on a casket. I wrote my name where they tried to erase it, and when they asked me to sign, I finally did on my terms.